Hello, I'm Bob Wilhelm, and I'm a storyteller. This story is one of my favorite ones. It's a difficult story, and it's been a number of years in working with it that has finally led me to be able to tell the story. It's by Leo Tolstoy, the Russian novelist and mystic. And like so many of his stories, it focuses on simple day to day human truths, but truths that are infused with a spirituality. In this story, Michael the Archangel is banished from heaven. It's such a strange twist to our usual biblical image, where we have Lucifer being cast out and Michael being the archangel who is faithful to the Lord and who becomes an image of fierce opposition to dark forces, uh, the image of the warrior, the cosmic warrior in Christianity, keeping the forces of darkness at bay. But Tolstoy is so much his own self in this. He takes what we expect and he turns them around, and he tells them in a way that lead us to think about what the story was about and what our lives are about. This Sunday is a continuation of Gospel of Matthew. Matthew is such a teacher. He's so didactic. Sermon on the Mount is an example of this. And Tolstoy is also a teacher, constantly teaching his understanding of what Christianity is all about. And his focus on, as one of his titles of one of his books is, The Kingdom of God is Within You. He was also a tremendous social reformer in many ways, an outspoken critic of a very lax and corrupt church in Russia, the Russian Orthodox Church, and a great moral figure for his time. In the story, so he begins with an image of the fall, Michael being cast out of paradise. Why? Not because of Lucifer's reason, because of his own pride and wanting to be the first among the angelic hosts and desiring perhaps to challenge God himself, but for the opposite reason, for a very good reason. That is that Michael is compassionate. Michael is someone who sees a situation of human suffering and has to say no to it. So people who are socially active would love a story like this, would love what Michael did, could understand it. What does he see? He is sent by God to take the soul of a woman. Now, this woman has lost her husband recently. She's given birth to a set of twins, and Michael appears as a messenger, as an angel of death, to come and take her soul and to leave her two orphan children with no family, abandoned in the poverty of 19th century Russia. And Michael, like us, rebels against this. This contradicts everything that he values and understands. He's like Job, struggling with the question of what is evil. And to him, there is no greater evil at this moment than to have these two children, these twin girls who were born, be taken from the love and the nourishment of their mother and be cast into a very uncertain future. And so the woman asks Michael, she cries out, "Spare me." And a phrase that appears in this story in a number of different times is a Russian proverb. And the proverb in one version is, a person cannot live without mother or father. And we know the truth of that. But there's another truth to the proverb, and that is that a person can live without mother and father if a person has God. And this is what Michael does not understand, that somehow in the cosmic design, that the God who seems so harsh so cruel, really cruel, in making this demand, has a deep wisdom that Michael does not understand. Now, what's interesting about the story is that Michael is one of the angelic hosts. You know, he's got a vision that's beyond ours. We are simply human. He's in the hierarchy of beings more spiritual and closer to God, but he too cannot understand. It's not just our human outcry against injustice, it's even the heavens' outcry. And so, in the story, what happens is that God insists on taking the soul of the woman. And when Michael comes back with the soul of the woman, he himself is cast down to earth. Not into hell below like Lucifer, but to our world, the middle world, between the heights and the depths. He's cast into our world, and very strangely, he becomes incarnate. He becomes in the flesh. There he is standing by the side of a Russian roadside shrine, a wooden shrine with a cross, a crucifix, place where local people would stop and offer prayers, where there might be a decoration of the shrine during the months when flowers are in bloom, at feast days. And many of these shrines, made of wood and having a large cross, really do look like, in some ways, the cross at Golgotha. And so when Pahom, who is the central character of the story, comes along the road, he sees Michael in the flesh, leaning against the cross, or in a sense on the cross. It's middle of winter. It's cold. It's bitter. Michael is naked. He has been born into this world like the Christ child on Christmas Eve. He is born, he is incarnated into this world, and he becomes human. And of course, it is only by becoming human that Michael and the rest of the story will come to understand the truths that God has hidden and which he asks Michael to discover. There's so many biblical images here. There's a hint at this moment of the story of the Good Samaritan when Michael passes by. When Simon, the Russian peasant, who's in a sense the other main protagonist in the story, he's drunk. He's coming back from the village. He is like Adam, thrown out from paradise, living in slavery, living in serfdom. He's an outcast, and like the Good Samaritan, he stops to help the man who's been beaten and left for dead. It's a wonderful image. And as I say in the written commentary, there's even an image of the good thief, with Simon being the good thief and Michael on the cross being Christ crucified. So there's a lot of deep, profound imagery here, religious imagery, mystical imagery, very tied in with the theology of the Eastern Church, the central place of the Incarnation. Michael, the angel, like Christ, enters into the human condition, and only by entering into the human condition can fully embrace it and can be a healer, can be our salvation, so to speak. So Tolstoy here is not theologizing, but he's storytelling, and he's a great artist who is exploring some of these themes in a non-dogmatic, non-theoretical way. And of course, in this aspect, he kind of shifts from Matthew's gospel, who's so didactic, to the gospel of Luke, who is far more compassionate and far more of a storyteller. And even more than that, as with all the great Russian writers and the spirituality of the Eastern Church, a movement beyond the Synoptic Gospels to the deep wisdom of the Gospel of John. So, God's intentions, God's wisdom, as Paul reminds us in today's reading from Corinthians, is hidden from us. We are like children. We need to be fed milk first before we can take solid food. And the milk that we are given, that Michael is given in the story, that we are given in our daily lives, is to think about the three questions that God puts to Michael before he exiles him to the human condition. And these three very simple questions with really very direct and simple answers is the beginning of a spiritual journey. So this Sunday in ordinary time is very close to the coming of the Lenten journey in the Western Church. It's not as close as in the Eastern Church, for the Eastern Church has a longer Lenten season. But it's a kind of a preparation for a journey. And if we listen carefully to the story of Matryona and Simon, the two Russian peasants, and their own struggle with understanding the truth of the gospel, we will be enriched. So thank you for listening. This has been a long reflection. It's a story I love. It's a story that is so rich that I would like to share it with you. I hope you enjoy the story. I'm Bob Wilhelm. I'm a storyteller.